Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Resilient Riches. We have Elana Silber here, the CEO of Sharsheret, who's working on cancer for women, men, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, and a lot of families. And she's really been on the forefront of actually helping people go through some of the most challenging points in their life. Elana, we know that you became CEO when you first started really just as a volunteer, and it really changed the trajectory of this enormous company and this enormous nonprofit. You have a $9 million budget, and a lot of it that you're giving away to people who are just going through this terrible time in their lives. So we really appreciate you coming on. We really appreciate talking about your cause. Cancer, as you know, my mom went through thyroid cancer, and it was really traumatic. And my dad's talked about on the show that he's a young 30-year-old and he finds out his wife has cancer, and it's really scary. So it's not a fun conversation, but it is one of the most crucial conversations you can have. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. And, I'm sorry that you had to go through what you were going through, but you talking about it really empowers other spouses, partners, friends. Caregiving is such an important part of healing and recovery from cancer. So your wife is very lucky that she had you, and that I'm sure for you it was a learning experience, but sharing what you've been through will definitely help other people. And Sharsheret, we are the Jewish breast and ovarian cancer organization, and we primarily focus on younger women, men, and families, women who are active, women who are dating, women who are in the workplace, to really empower them to take control of their health and their lives at a time when everything seems out of control. Many are raising families, many are looking to start families, and these are really big questions when you're diagnosed with cancer. But we're fortunate in this country to have very advanced medical care. So what Sharsheret does is we complement the medical care in this country to address all the psychosocial issues that affect a cancer patient, because we know when your mental health is addressed, it also helps improve your physical health and recovery. So that's really where Sharsheret comes in. And that's what we're helping women do, heal and take on a diagnosis and get to the other side stronger, better, and healthier.
What I really liked when we spoke before, you said something really impactful. It wasn't just dealing with the diagnosis and dealing with the cancer. It was dealing with all the support and the surroundings behind this trauma that people are going through. You were talking about women very frequently lose all their hair, but there's a treatment for women that can help prevent the loss of hair. And that's something that Sharsheret actually will help sponsor. Can you talk about these supplemental treatments that people don't really know?
Right. So first of all, when you're diagnosed with cancer, your first fear is, am I going to live or am I going to die? Right. And that's the biggest question. But the second biggest question is, am I going to lose my hair? Because chemotherapy traditionally created hair loss. And when you look in the mirror and you see yourself as a cancer patient, it's very overwhelming. It's a constant reminder. When you have little kids at home and they see you without your hair, and a month ago you had hair, it's very upsetting. So many women come to us with this big fear of losing their hair. And that is the most traumatic part of cancer, after being concerned if they'll live and they'll die. So what we've seen over the last few years, how do you manage hair loss? One of the things is you can get a wig. Wigs are not always covered by insurance, and certainly not the wigs that look really nice. And if you're about to go for a job interview, or you're going to on a date, or you're going to a family celebration or a holiday, you want to look your best. And having these inexpensive wigs don't work. So there are human hair wigs that are really expensive. Sharsheret has funding to pay for those wigs, not because it's a vanity thing. It's purely a quality of life need. You want to be out there in the world and you want to feel your best to do your best. You don't want cancer to take away all the enjoyment in life. Another thing that they've come out with that's recommended for patients who have breast cancer and ovarian cancer in certain cases, and obviously discuss it with your doctor, is called cold capping, scalp cooling. And it's a process that can preserve your hair during chemotherapy that has found success with many women. And that, again, is an opportunity for women to take advantage, but only if they can afford it. It's not something that's covered by insurance right now. Some medical centers have funders that cover it, but many do not. And it's a labor-intensive process where they freeze your head, but you can keep your hair. So Sharsheret is also funding that. Sharsheret is probably distributing over $1 million a year to low-income cancer patients for these kind of services that improve quality of life. Again, also hair loss doesn't only affect the hair up in your head, but also the hair on your face, so eyebrows. And women want to look normal, whatever that means. I want eyebrows. So microblading is also something that's not covered by insurance. And these small things are funded by Sharsheret all across the country. You know, we have offices in cities in New York, New Jersey, LA, Chicago, and Florida. And we're providing these services. And we're also providing emergency relief funds for people. Sometimes they lose their jobs and they have to move. They have to pay their mortgages, and Sharsheret is covering those costs. And these are not loans, these are distributions. And we're improving quality of life through these very important financial subsidies.
Yeah, we find that when people are going through these and we have just working in the insurance world and the financial services world, we deal with a lot of clients who are going through these really challenging times. And the first thing they say to us is, do I have enough money to afford it? Am I going to, obviously, can it be okay? What's going to happen to me? But then they really worry about the finances and how are they going to structure it? Okay, I'm not going to work for a year or whatever it is, or am I going to be fully functioning when I come back? We have a great friend of ours, a client of ours, ultra successful, went through a very serious cancer, and I don't know what's his name, went through a very serious cancer, and he worked the entire time through it. Not that he needed to work by any means, but he worked and it gave him a sense of purpose. It gave him a sense of passion. But I see that he is not the same as he was pre and post. And it's a challenge for people who are working. So having an organization that could be a stopgap just to help you for a little while, or even for a long period of time, just being part of it, it's huge. What do you see the financial burdens of cancer? Because people think, oh, it's covered by medical insurance and I should be okay. Where do you see the big finances?
Okay, so medical insurance is also in this country is very tricky. You know, no two insurances are the same. Services are different. Sometimes you're not informed by your doctor in advance that you need to get something approved. MRIs could cost through the roof, and it depends. Testing, we could talk a little bit about genetic testing afterwards. If you're not considered that necessary, there are certain procedures. There's questions with medications. If you can take the first medicine that you want, but no, if insurance doesn't cover it, you have to start with a different medication and you're worried about your health. So Sharsheret provides support in understanding your insurance, fighting claims, and other issues with insurance. So insurance is actually a huge challenge for people financially, practically, and time-wise. In addition to financial toxicity, there's also time toxicity. You have limited time when you are working, like you mentioned, like your client. You are going for medical care, and now you have to also deal with insurance and paying for things. These are all time-consuming, and it's all part of the cancer burden. So Sharsheret can ease that burden. Everything we do is free and confidential and also easy to access. Our services, we have about 15 social workers on staff and a genetic counselor and educators who are able to be reached from anywhere at any time. We were remote way before the pandemic, way before COVID, everything. We understand that younger people are busy, they're active, they don't have time to go to another office. So all the services that we offer can be accessed by phone, email, live chat. You know, we have people approaching us on Instagram and Facebook, messaging us. So that all saves time and money by being able to reach out to an organization that can kind of be your quarterback and ensure that you can find resources. There are also a lot of resources out there. There's something called breast cancer freebies and other things. And Sharsheret can help navigate this very, very crowded space, but opportunities to help ease the financial burden. And also when we talk about financial burden, especially with younger families who are doing family planning, cancer can limit your fertility options and it can compromise fertility. So there are a lot of families who are looking into IVF, in vitro, and there's also something called PGT screening, where now you can screen embryos who might carry a genetic mutation for a cancer like breast cancer or ovarian cancer, a BRCA mutation. So in order to cut off a genetic mutation in a family that's considering in vitro fertilization can screen these embryos and not implant ones that have a genetic mutation that could increase the risk for cancer. But that's super expensive.
Yeah, it's at least $35,000 a pop.
Out of pocket, easily. Yes.
So you're coming in.
So we don't necessarily fund that yet. Although we
you're
are
working on it. You're working on it.
And we have contacts and we can help people figure out how to do that and save money. I mean, because this is.
But just to talk about your insurance, I mean, with my wife also, she recently, I mean, she had the thyroid cancer and she had to go for regular scans. So she applies for the scan. She was switched doctors actually recently, and the doctor says you haven't had a scan in a long time because the insurance wouldn't approve it. You have to have a scan now. So she gets rejected. It gets disapproved. You got to go back like 2, 3, 4 times and keep harassing and nagging the insurance companies until you get an approval, which eventually then she does. Right. And these are the $10,000, $20,000 for these scans. It's just like a crazy amount of money, but how much time you got to be on the phone. It's an hour and a half. It takes so much time just to get through. But just to clarify also, I mean, you're the breast cancer, ovarian cancer.
Right.
You're not looking at thyroid cancer or prostate or anything else like that.
So interesting. Yeah. So first of all, when everyone calls Sharsheret, we never say no. Like if there are resources that we've developed from breast and ovarian cancer that can translate into other cancers, like we have a bunch of women, and I don't know if this is any indication of anything, but who've had thyroid and breast cancer. So we are helping women who've had other cancers too. And prostate cancer, interestingly enough, we are doing something in that area because the BRCA, the breast cancer gene mutation, increases risk. The BRCA mutation can be carried by men and women. So a person who carries a BRCA mutation, not only is that increased risk for breast and ovarian cancer, obviously men would not be at increased risk for ovarian, but could get male breast cancer, but also increases their risk for prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, and melanoma. So we are also speaking to men who have a family history of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate, and pancreatic, trying to put that all together and see, is there something going on in this family? How can we be helpful? How can we help them prevent a diagnosis or catch it in its early stages when it can be cured? So we are addressing prostate cancer and thyroid cancer more tangentially than directly, but we've also created a lot of relationships and a lot of resources that we can help navigate for other cancers too, but primarily breast cancer and ovarian cancer because that's our expertise. There's a lot of demand for us to take our model and expand it to all cancers, but we're just not ready to do that.
I mean, there's so much work.
No, because I know we've used Echo a lot also. Echo's great. Medical. Yes. Yeah. So you work with them, I'm sure.
We do. We also have a registry of physicians in our database. We have about 30,000 women who've reached out to Sharsheret over the years. We've been around a little over 20 years. So we keep a list of those doctors. We're not recommending, we don't say one is better than the other because there are a lot of amazing doctors that we may not know about, but we keep this list so that when women, because women want to talk about doctors, that's what you want to talk about. So if someone calls us from somewhere in the country and says, do you know anyone who used a plastic surgeon in Chicago and we have 10 women used this plastic surgeon. So then they talk to them about it and that's who they use. I mean, just the other night, I got an email from someone who said, my colleague's friend was colleague's sibling or friend was diagnosed with breast cancer. Who are the top surgeons in New York for initial, not reconstruction, but for original? So we were able to tap into our peer support network of over 30,000 women and see who are they using, and they'll share that conversation. And it's we have a proprietary database that makes matches from women to women who have similar experiences, similar backgrounds. So if they're diagnosed with similar breast cancers, there's so many versions of breast cancer, we can connect them. And if they're concerned about losing their hair or they want to talk about losing their job or, just even relationships with caregivers, we create these very tailored matches and women are sharing experiences that way.
That's probably important also just for the women to know that someone went through it and survived and it was successful. Yeah. And that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to work out. But what we talk a lot about this also, not just with cancer, but, in our other life, we do financial services, and some of the insurance that we do will have what's called living benefits. So we are able to cover some of the costs of this. Somebody comes down with cancer and they have a policy that does have living benefits. You're able to take out from the death benefit in your life to pay for some of those expenses, which it immediately reduces some of the burden. I mean, we had a client that had a very serious heart attack. It's not cancer, but heart attack. And he had $1 million policy, got $855,000 because of the policy. So that, went a long way, of course, to paying for all those extra expenses.
We may need you guys to give us like a blog post or something to share with our women. This is good education.
Yeah, it's huge. We realized that there wasn't a lot of companies that were indemnifying and covering cancer. Aflac really is the main leader when it comes to like employee benefits. Just for your listener, for your audience, Aflac is really one of the leaders that they have a cancer policy. Like I personally own my own cancer policy because my mom had thyroid cancer. I think my grandmother had thyroid cancer.
She had a lot of different things. Hard to know. It's hard to know what really she had.
So I went, I could be at risk. So I went, all right, let me get this policy. It was something through an employer, and you can get a really cheap cancer policy for people who are scared if you have genetics. Then I bought a life insurance policy that also had illness protection that covered cancer as well. So we're just making sure that's indemnified. And we preach it a lot because we've seen in our own family, we see what it does to families. It's a catastrophe. You don't ever want to sacrifice on your own personal care because of money, because money has become secondary. At that moment, the second you get the diagnosis, money becomes secondary to anything in your life. The number one is obviously survival and dignity and all this other stuff. When you're talking to people and they're coming up to you and they're saying, hey, this is what I'm going through, what is the first stages that you would recommend for their caregivers, for the spouses, for the partners, for the friends to say? How should they address those people?
So this is a question we get all the time, right? Who knows what to say the right thing? What do they want to hear? So we have resources. Like if you called me tomorrow and you said, Elana, I don't know what to say to this person, I don't know what to do, I will immediately send you a guide to how to take care of someone you love, what to say, what not to say. I mean, the basic rule of thumb is be a good listener, right? And when you're offering to do something, don't just say, I'll do anything. Give a specific offer. Like, I can pick this up for you. I can take care of this specific thing for you. But we have a resource specifically on friends and family on how to be a better caregiver. And we have, webinars on this. We've done about, 200 webinars. They're all archived on our website. So what our social workers do is if somebody calls in, a caregiver, because we speak to spouses all the time, and families and moms and dads and young adult children for moms. So we will navigate Sharsheret's website, which now, is a lot to look through, and get you the resources you want. So there's videos to look at. There are written resources. And then you have the social worker who becomes your go-to. We're available all the time. We have different time zones. So we have someone on pretty much all the time, from LA. So I guess from 6 in the morning in LA till like 9 o'clock New York time, like you can reach somebody and they will literally walk you through it. This is what's happening here, our coping mechanisms, metaphors. We also have meditation, like whatever the person needs, everything is very tailored, customized. So you get a human being who answers the phone, which in this day and age is kind of unique and special, right? And we have all the video resources and printed resources to guide the caregivers. But really be a good listener, make specific offers, and reach out to Sharsheret because we can help you help them.
And who's Sharsheret primarily targeting? Is it just women?
So Sharsheret is, it's breast cancer and ovarian cancer makes you think women, obviously. Although men do get male breast cancer, it's a much lower risk, but it's pretty traumatic for men to go through an illness that has traditionally been seen as a women's illness. So we're primarily, I guess, the woman going through breast cancer and ovarian cancer or at increased genetic risk is our target, but it's not only her that's going through it, but everyone around her. And also when we're talking about genetics, the cancer genes that are associated with breast cancer and ovarian cancer are also carried by men. And we talked about it before, and increases their own risk for their own cancers. So we are also targeting men from an education perspective and a support perspective to understand their genetic risk for cancer and what they can do today to protect their future, screenings, testing, and all that kind of stuff.
So there's a lot of preventative work as well.
Yes, there's a lot. I mean, we're starting on college campuses. We're on every college campus in the U.S. Anyone who has an AEFI or an AEPI is doing something for Sharsheret. We're the national philanthropy for AEFI, which is the largest Jewish sorority, although they have plenty of members who are not Jewish. And we are also working with campus groups. So we're educating these kids. Like you mentioned, your mom had thyroid cancer, which is important to know your family history, but we want to talk to you about your risk. This is not about your mom's cancer, right? This is about your health and what you can do today, healthy living, lifestyle behaviors. You're on college campuses telling kids not to drink. It's not so easy. But we're trying to work with the younger population to understand, look, you're adults. Let's take care of your health now, and you can look towards a healthier future. And we partner with health services on campuses. So we're probably very, very active on about 150 college campuses. Amazing. Preventing cancer.
Amazing.
So it's mostly for younger people, though, it sounds like. And that's what you were saying before. I mean,
active. I mean, we have women in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, we had a 62-year-old woman with a 3-year-old child. In these days, it's not like, 40-year-old anymore, right? I mean, I don't want to think that. But, active. There are very good organizations that are addressing the elderly population, Meals on Wheels, family accompaniment, going to the doctor, things like that. Sharsheret doesn't do that. But we have partners. So if someone in your family needs that, we'll make sure you get it. But that's not something that we do. We're all about empowerment, active women. And then we have this whole following after cancer of women, men, and families who want to be a part of growing Sharsheret and helping others. And that's what Sharsheret, it's the Hebrew word for chain. And it symbolizes the links we make between women and men and healthcare professionals and resources to strengthen support and really get to that healthy
That's
future.
Amazing. Are you also following up, like let's say somebody's had a remission, they're fine, breast cancer is over, whatever happened 5 years down the road, they need to go for a scan. Are you involved still, or you're active at the time and then that's it?
So it's the kind of thing that now that we're around 20 years, you can look back, and we've seen families who reached out to us in 2001, 2002, reaching out again, like you said, follow-up screenings, but also now their children, right? If a woman was 40 years old in 2001, now she's in her 60s, maybe kids are going to college or starting families, so we're helping them. We do real follow-ups with people within a year and a half, 2 years. And then everyone is part of we have a community. So there's a lot of email. We're very strong on email. We also have a Facebook group of women. It's a closed private Facebook group where you have to go through Sharsheret. You're vetted to get in. And so these are women who are giving back and sharing to women who are new coming into the Facebook group. So a lot of them are staying involved, and we see that they are coming to us when new things happen. We also send out an annual survey every year to see how people are doing and what they want to do, and if they want to speak to a counselor.
It's a great connection, because the whole thing is people who have gone through it and new people. So if you stay engaged with people who are in remission, they can talk to people who are currently
they become the peer supporters.
It's a great resource. It's a great resource.
It's an incredible thing. How is it that you built such a resilient brand? I mean, you built a tremendously powerful nonprofit that is doing so much and giving so much, and everything that we've spoken about before was, well, we want to do this initiative and we want to do that initiative. If I gave you another 10 million, you would spend that 10 million tomorrow.
So if anyone's on the call and wants to drop
that 10 million cash.
I mean, the truth is we have a couple of big projects on the docket. Like if we got a funder, we would do it. I mean, we have the largest database of young Jewish women in the world, probably outside of Israel. And we can probably, if we had the good data, identify trends in the Jewish community and also provide better support. We're working with about 2-3 dozen pharmaceutical companies that are bringing drugs to market that target breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and BRCA BRCA genetics. They would want to tap into our data if it was better. But we need to create a stronger database. We need to have the data, we've been putting everything in, but it's not up to a level where it's so detailed, and it costs a lot of money in the technology. So I'm just putting it out there. If we could create this registry, I do think we could change the trajectory of breast cancer and ovarian cancer in our community. And we can probably also help pharmaceuticals as they create drugs, because if all these women give their feedback on drugs and experiences, they'll make better drugs, and we can be the leader in that. So that's a huge thing. But we work also with the government. I chaired the Federal Advisory Committee on Breast Cancer in Young Women. We've had a cooperative agreement with them for 15 years, and now we just applied for a renewal grant and submitted on Thursday.
It sounds what you're saying is that you've not only create connections, like the nonprofit world is I would say is weak on creating everlasting connections and creating a sustainable business model. But what you've done is you have created a sustainable business model by engaging the federal government, by engaging pharmaceutical companies, by engaging doctors, by engaging past donors. And that's how you're able to keep this going.
Yeah. I mean, I think of it, it's very emotional to me. I've had so many friends. I personally have not had breast cancer, but I have friends and family, and it's an emotional piece. But on the other hand, I have a business mind, and so I have an MBA in healthcare. So I kind of put the two together, having strong community connections and this passion for healthcare and for women. So I do kind of see it. This is a business. I mean, we are getting donors. We have about 16,000 donors annually, probably 50,000 historically. This is serious money. We're very responsible. We are certified by the Better Business Bureau. We have top ratings from Charity Navigator, GuideStar, which is now called Candid. I mean, we have platinum status on everything. We say that we take ourselves very seriously. Our materials are beautiful, professional. We say, I guess this is what we say, we work banking hours, get paid nonprofit rates. But we take ourselves seriously. We know that cancer is not pretty, and we know it's hard. We don't make anyone wait more than 24 hours for anything. Everything is professional. We take ourselves very, very seriously.
So it's private funding and government funding. That's the
government
source?
Funding is tiny,
It's
5%.
tiny.
But it's good because, we're working
5% is nothing. I just want to highlight that 5%.
No, 5% is almost.
But I don't want to lose that grant. And I just submitted it on Thursday, and it took a long time to draft it. But we put that in on Thursday. Most of our funding, we do have corporate support from these pharmaceutical companies that are supporting the work that we do, because that's the area that they have an expertise. And we've learned a lot from them. I know they get a bad rap in the community, but there's really good people who are working there too, and we're working with them. And the rest,
they do save lives. Like in the end of the day,
it costs a lot, but
they do save lives. I'd rather have them than not have them. That's what I decided.
It's actually very interesting because we do a lot of life insurance, and the stigma of cancer is not as bad as it used to be, perhaps. Like a lot of times if someone says, well, I have cancer, I can't apply for life insurance. I can't get it. I can't get an approval. That's not so true anymore. A lot of times you're able to get it, especially if you work with the underwriters directly and explain, and, not if someone's going through it, but if you've been in remission for a year, it's very possible.
Or we've had clients that have currently cancer. I'm thinking of two people, one person with breast cancer and somebody with prostate cancer.
It depends. I just had a couple declines though.
Well, one thing we work on at Sharsheret to educate is genetic testing. Like there's every illness is eventually going to be attributed to a genetic mutation. We're just not there yet. That's like the whole genome project. But what we're educating the community is, so for example, for us, what's very relevant is this BRCA, BRCA testing. Yep. So there is an Anti-Discrimination Act. So if you go for genetic testing and you find out you're BRCA positive, your employer cannot, and your insurance company cannot discriminate based on that. The problem is in life insurance. And life insurance is an issue when it comes to genetic testing. So what we recommend is if you're considering genetic testing, go get your life insurance prior, because there's no protection. So that's like an area. Yes, we've come really far, and if your employer won't discriminate, and insurance companies, but life insurance is a different story. So in that situation, we do recommend, if you're good, because if you come up with a positive genetic mutation, it could compromise your life insurance. So we are telling people to do that. That's like a tip. If we encourage people to really know their family history, speak to our genetic counselor. Again, everything's free. This is not like a we don't make any money on it.
It's a good plug. It's a real plug, and it's an amazing plug.
Okay. So that's something to consider, and reach out to us, and we can help people manage those questions that they're having.
So going back to my question, how do you build such a resilient nonprofit?
Well, first of all, we stayed very focused, right? Again, we've had a lot of pressure to expand. So we stuck with breast cancer and ovarian cancer. We put our heart and soul into it, and we also have very good checks and balances between our teams. We build very slowly and very carefully. Look, it took us 20 years to get here. And everyone who is a volunteer at Sharsheret probably, or maybe not a volunteer, every donor is a potential client. Every client is a potential donor. And we're seeing that many people come and give back. So while we have a staff of 45 to 50, and we have boards all over the country, we also have a very, very strong volunteer base. And they're actually mobilizing a lot of our programs and also capitalizing on this younger generation, right? We've been in college campuses since 2007. So these are kids on campus who met us then. Now they are doctors, they are community leaders, they are parents, and they're also diagnosed. And they are helping to strengthen our community, both from a philanthropy perspective, from even marketing. They're out there and they're sharing. People say, every time I speak to someone, I'll say, what's your connection? They're like, oh, I was in AEFI on campus. And I recommended Sharsheret to this doctor. Oh, I saw your name. You were on a study that my hospital was working on. So Sharsheret has been placing ourselves slowly and carefully, but in lots and lots of different touch points. So people are seeing us in a lot of different ways. And we're trying to our motto is we are wherever you are. That started with the whole remote access thing before COVID, but that's really where we are. We can be on your college campuses. We're in medical centers.
Yeah, you're proactive.
And we have lots and lots of
you're bankers.
ambassadors.
You're bankers.
Yeah.
You're bankers with the bank. Like you're going after it's like you're going after business. It's really
we are.
You're like
we're
cold
soliciting
calling.
you.
We're soliciting you to help you.
No, but I think it makes sense that you focus on one area. You're not trying to do everything to everybody. You focus on one area, and that's what you go after.
And the truth is, the numbers of diagnoses are going up. Do we attribute it to what's going on in the environment? Is there better screening modalities? I take some credit, Sharsheret's been educating the community. Like you talked about, let's say 30, 40 years ago was the C word, right? You couldn't say cancer. The conversations opened up. We take credit for that. We've made it that it's okay to talk about it. But interestingly enough, when a person is diagnosed, that very beginning, they are very, very confidential. It doesn't matter whether it's, what their age is, what their religious background is, what their financial status is, because they don't understand and they don't want everyone bothering them. And Sharsheret is the perfect place for them to call because it's still secret. It's still private and we can help you get through it. We're not looking to keep it a secret, but we can help you. How are you going to tell people you don't know the answers to anything? You don't want everyone bombarding you. So Sharsheret is kind of like the best kept secret, but also we are everywhere. But we find sometimes, and that's why this podcast is so important because anyone listening, some of them will say, oh, of course I know Sharsheret. Some of them will be in, 5 miles, they'll be in New York City. We have an office in New York City and they'll never have heard of us. So we do our best and we've grown a lot, but I think that there's so much more potential and we really rely on people like you to spread the word and one person at a time and it grows. And, all we want to do is help more people.
And you have a tenacity to help.
Yeah. And a passion for it. And we see results. People often ask me, is Sharsheret a sad place to work? And I said, no, most women and their families are doing well. And most of them who are going through hard times feel that they're part of something, part of a movement and not isolated. And cancer is a very isolating experience, but to have this unity and this group and this day and age, having a community behind you, it's very helpful. And so I really appreciate you guys having me on.
No, of course. Well, you said, hey, you want to do more? And we're like, of course. Like, how could we not facilitate anything like that? And also, you never know who you're going to impact. You never know where it's going to spread. And
we were neighbors. So
we're neighbors. You live like four houses away. Where did you get this? What was that defining moment in your life, your personal life, that allowed you to be so, tough is an understatement for what you're talking about, to be so strong into what you're doing, to be so passionate to build this thing from nothing. You said can I say the number, your budget number?
Oh,
for
yeah,
the year?
9 million.
9 million. 9 million. Yeah, I said.
Yeah. But it's growing. It's projected to be
good.
Higher.
I hope it's 100 million. Where did you get this to now? What was that moment in your life that you would say is a defining moment for you that allowed you to become such a driver and pusher in this?
So I appreciate
not just in Sharsheret. I'm talking about in life.
So the Sharsheret aha moment or whatever.
I'm talking about the Mrs. Silber moment.
So I guess, first of all,
Robinson Silber.
Yeah, exactly. A mom of 3 girls and a boy. I always felt it was important to advocate for women. I think that women should have a lot to offer and should be in the professional world. So for me personally, being a professional was important and a good role model for my girls who've actually followed. One is a doctor, one is in marketing for a stock exchange here in New York, and one works for Accenture, a big consulting firm. My son is in education. But I think being a role model, I think health is important. Look, whatever you have in the world, if you don't have your health, it's nothing. You could have all the money in the world, but not to have your health, and that's your valuable thing. So you have to fight for your health. You have to be an advocate, and you have to be educated, and you have to take control over your health. You have to eat healthy. You have to exercise. You have to go for your appointments. I said this on a podcast 6 months ago, and a woman said I saved her life. If you haven't scheduled your annual mammogram and you're 40 years old and older, schedule it now. If you're a man who knows your family history and you know that there's something there, go to your doctor and get your screenings. Like if you have nothing else to do after this podcast and don't want to hear anything I have to say, just make your appointment. It will save your life. So I think health and advocate and a community person. I grew up in a family where my parents were very active in the community. And I learned from them and the responsibility to care for one another. I mean, we talk about it, if you save one life, you save the world. And that was something that I grew up with as a family who was very involved. They weren't in finance. We weren't wealthy, but we did a lot for the community. And to this day, people will still say to me, I know your parents from then, they changed my life. And if we can change a life from this podcast, save a life, that was great. But from the Sharsheret perspective, I have to give some credit, most of the credit to the founder. The founder was a young mom, 28 years old, diagnosed with breast cancer, was clerking for Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she was a rising attorney, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she couldn't find support for anyone like her at that time. And she met another young woman. The founder's name was Sharsheret. The woman that she found in the community, her name is Lauren Weiser. And Lauren Weiser was diagnosed with cancer 6 months before Rochelle and carried her through those harrowing days before surgery, got her what she needed. And she said, we can't be the only two young women, and they were Jewish women. Let's start an organization if we can help 5 women a year. And, fast forward now, we've helped over 30,000 and 250,000 have been educated. So she came to speak in our community. And as a young woman, I felt I had to get involved. So I was a volunteer. And then she was just alone. And she said, Sharsheret, Elana, you have an MBA in healthcare. You're a really good volunteer. I was looking for a job. So I started and then I never left.
Here you are.
Here I am.
How can people find you? How can people get in touch?
Okay. So we are wherever you are. So you can find us online, sharsheret.org. You can call us 866-474-2774. It stands for Go Sharsh. You can find us on live chat. We have live chat on our website. We're on Instagram. We're Sharsheret Official because there are a lot of Sharsherets on Instagram. They're all related to us, but a lot of college campuses are taking Sharsheret. So Sharsheret
Did you get the
Official.
check mark? Did you do the check mark yet?
I don't know. What is that?
The verification?
I guess. I don't know.
You didn't do it yet.
I don't know. Okay.
Get your marketing people.
Okay. So you guys tell me what that is. Facebook, LinkedIn. Where else? I don't think we have an official TikTok. Still trying to figure that out. But yeah, and really
You better hurry up maybe with that TikTok.
I know, right? Before they ban it. So, really we can be reached everywhere. Also, if you're going to your doctor, mention Sharsheret. They likely know how to reach us. But yeah, just Google us. We're here. Sharsheret, SHARSHERET.org.
Elana, thank you so much for coming. Everybody, this is such an impactful podcast and so different than what normally you have a conversation about. But it shows that your tenacity and your resilience to want to help more and more and more people across the world. And I know you're expanding into multi-country, so
we're in Israel.
You're in Israel now, and I know there's a big need over there. It's really amazing. We love what you're doing. We love to get involved. We love to be part of your journey, and we really appreciate you coming. And thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you on the next one.